There are no wrong reasons for wanting to get an ID. Whether it's because they're your favorite character, or they have a story that you're interested in seeing, or it scratches some gameplay itch an ID just hasn't yet for you. However you choose to spend your time and whatever resources you have, no one's really fit to judge that. But on the other hand, if you choose to pull or shard based off of that, well, you've already made your choice on whether you should get this ID, haven't you? That's why my job is to compare new kits to existing IDs to see if, by the numbers, they're worth everyone else spending resources of any kind on. And based on that metric, this ID is a rough sell. One that I intend to prove more with this drop than with any other kit review so far. So, TLDR, the best case to get this ID is if you want to run a Poise, Rupture Team, and MD without Sankum or So's 15-3 limitation, or if you have these two IDs and somehow Mao Otis but not Mao Ryoshu from Season 5. Aside from that, it's not easy to justify this ID in a meta sense. But just like how a struggling Clash ain't hopeless, a hard time doesn't mean an impossible one. And to talk about that, let's crack open Ryoshu's kit. Drifting Blade of Hongyan Ryoshu is a poise-focused ID with several defensive mechanics that happens to bring some benefits to a Rupture and more specifically, Heisho team. As such, many of her mechanics work in a similar way to Heisho units. She has a specific status she can get when using her skill 3 and defensive skill, Protector's Stance. After using either of these skills, she'll gain 2 stacks of this status that will decay by 1 every turn. While active, Night Daiyu Ryoshu will take less damage, gain shield based on her poise at the start of the turn, and gain more poise P and C, and aggro on herself at turn end. This passive basically represents the 2 main priorities she has: build poise and tank hits. And similar to Lin Daiyu, this combination means she acts as a spiked shield. And that's further shown through her innate and sin-based passives. ILTLT, also called I Would Have Liked to Walk the Lord's Path Together, is where we see one of her main strengths. When another ally hits an enemy, she'll use an unopposed S1 against that same enemy. And if you're familiar with Nidal's Gregor or Kurokumo Heath, the idea here is that she's more of a 1,000 cuts ID rather than a major damage buildup ID. But we'll get to the skill proper soon. In addition, this passive has a feature that's not limited to, but built to be used with Lord Lu. When she's returned or substituted into the battlefield, like with Lord Hong Lu's counter, she will get a full stack of Protector's Stance and be treated as one of Hong Lu's preferred factions. In other words, she'll come in with an extra 20 SP and an unopposed skill 3 against an enemy. And since this is the top passive on the list, she doesn't even need a specific resonance or sin known to activate this sucker. In contrast, her Sin passive, Loyal Warrior, is an upgrade to these mechanics. When an ally is either killed or wounded to a certain point by an attack, she'll use her skill 3 as an unopposed attack against the enemy. But this ability has a limit on uses per encounter, which we know since Lord Hong Lu is allowed to use this ability beyond that limit. Thankfully, this passive is still useful otherwise since it also buffs the unopposed skill 1. This will increase the damage dealt on crit and heal an ally's SP when in use. Just keep in mind that all of these passives are the kinds of abilities that are limited per turn, so don't expect there to be an infinite number of S1s going around. 2 to 3 per turn on the S1 use with a possible lower limit on the SP heal feels most likely. But don't worry, there'll be plenty more on that too. Next up, let's get to the skills proper, starting with Sentinel. This clashable card is the most reliable way to get Protector's Stance, and when used, she'll gain a higher defense level based on the amount of HP she's lost during the fight. Based on that, this ID gets some level of scaling based on damage taken, and will benefit from any healing that can come from other sinners, similar to you, Sinclair, and Heathcliff. Lastly, she'll gain poise based on the target's rupture on Clash win, but before anyone gets too excited about that, these abilities are historically capped out, like with Ji Chunishmil's skill 2 having a limit of 5. So I wouldn't go into this expecting her to get an instant guaranteed crit afterward. But now what's all that poise going to? Well, that's where the skill 1 and skill 3 come in. Ryoshu's skill 3, Aiding Strike, is the final way she can gain Protector's Stance, gains final power if the enemy has enough negative coins, likely 3, coin power based on Rupture, and gains poise P and C. As for the coin effects, these will inflict a lot of Rupture potency if you can maintain crits. The first hit will add on Rupture count, while the rest of the skill will inflict a minimum of 5 Rupture on the target if you crit. The last coin also has a nice effect to deal more crit damage based on the Rupture. I would just say right now, one of this ID's biggest chances at being good is just how strong these crit damage buffs are. All 3 skills have one of these suckers on the final coin, so definitely watch for the numbers on release. Speaking of moves to watch, let's go over to the skill 1, because the skill 2 is like a child burrowing in a carriage with a monkey. It's best forgotten. Hey, back off is a single coin skill that, like the others, gains coin power by Rupture and gives her poise count on use. And if you happen to use it with their ILTLT passive, it'll inflict Rupture count, meaning the move is count neutral when procced this way. She'll also inflict at least 2 Rupture potency on crit alongside that extra damage buff. In other words, the more you're able to proc this move per turn, the more Rupture count it inflicts, and the more crit buffs it gets, the better the overall ID is. Absolutely! Watch out for this one's numbers too. And despite me poking fun at it, there is a purpose for the skill too, which ultimately is here to build poise. Like the other skills, it gets stronger from Rupture with a final coin crit damage buff, builds poise count on use, and like her guard, will give herself poise with the second coin based on the enemy's Rupture. And of course, there are a couple of Rupture PNC applications. While there is potential in this skill to build up a lot of poise with a single use, the fact that it's based on the Rupture on target, and the fact that most S6 IDs won't inflict Rupture count in amounts greater than 2, means that she heavily relies on her allies to apply Rupture count so that she can benefit the most. So this S2 kinda needs a setup so that it can work well. But if we're gonna talk about her supports, then there's her support passive Drifter. This passive works in a similar vein to an old ID, which will give an ally with the earliest deployment shield based on their poise. I can only hope that she caps out at giving more than only 10 shield per turn. So now that we've taken a look at her specific skills, it's time to look into exactly what this vision for the ID is. But brother, I think she's gonna need some better contacts, cause this ID is all over the place. Seriously, there's this motif of being a tank with ally SP buffs and extra attacks, which have a shot at being decent for Rupture. But outside of her skill 1, the chances of her being Rupture neutral are exceedingly low, so that can't be her main focus. Poise is clearly the greatest focus on the ID since she gets the greatest amount of buffs and statuses related to having it and critting, but half of her ways of getting poise potency are dependent on the enemy having Rupture, meaning she relies heavily on being not in a poise, but a Rupture team. No matter how you slice it with the limited info, this ID's a mess that's not even trying to half-ass 2 things, but almost third-ass 3 things. And it really makes me get why she wasn't able to protect her own shit herself. Her eye was not on the prize. But I did say there was still hope here. Normally when I make these kit reviews, I try to temper what the ID appears to be good at with what way it could be ruined. This time though, we're gonna do the opposite and see what can salvage drifting Ryoshu. So I took some drastic measures this go around, and with the strong desire that any rant I've made earlier or later in this video ages poorly, and to see just how much we can pull out of limited information, I looked into the past IDs and NPCs of Season 6 and made an estimate of what every number on this kit would be before it releases. Using this estimate, we'll see why these values are likely, which ones can save her in a meta sense, and then finally see what her vision is. And to do this, I think it's safe to say, we're gonna have to look at Ryoshu in a different way. For instance, do you like this picture of Ryoshu? How about this one, with her and all the other sinners standing at the gates of hell? Or maybe these Christmas charms are acrylics of all the sinners? Well, my dear bastard abandoned children left to fend for themselves. Divorce! That's a final miracle in Dagwanyan. Because friend of the channel, Beanabun, has opened her store for the holidays. And it's got just about everything you can imagine from her on Limbus, and a bit of Hollow Knight too for some reason. You know what, good for her. I'm glad she's got an obsession. And here's the funny thing about this opening. We lied about the opening date. Because you'll see here it says December 4th. It's actually today through the 29th. And when you use the code FRAMOUS at checkout while supplies last, you can get a free Christmas Nightmare Frey sticker and a 15% discount on orders over 25 or more. Now, y'all might be asking, is she paying me to say this? No. Not since our divorce. So like with me to her, or Ryoshu to her burning corpse of a child, the closest we can get is going to etsy.com/shop/Beanabun Cafe, or using the link in the description and pinned comment to just have something nice that you can trust will get to you. And speaking of feeling secure, let's see how well we can trust the numbers on the wannabe anarchist. Alright, I'm gonna go through each of these individual numbers and explain why they are put on this list and what they are referencing. First off, the rupture values here are all set to either 1 or 2 because, with the advent of death rights, just about every instance of rupture is between 1 or 2, whether it's with potency or count. So that, by far the easiest part to estimate. Of course, this means she's just not gonna be count neutral, unless her skill 1, when unopposed, inflicts at least 2 rupture count. If that's the case, she very well could become a tool that you can direct to apply greater count with her passive. If this applies 2 count and her ILTLT can activate twice per turn like Canon Dayu does, then there is some potential to this being a strategic count neutral overall. Now, I also left in the possibility that this will have 3 uses per turn, since Lin Dayu's here as an additional unit in a team of 8, while Ryoshu's gonna be here in a team of 7 and might justify a buff for the opportunity cost. And you're gonna notice that pattern coming up a lot, where the values are based on Lin Dayu plus some extra amount. For instance, the crit buffs in all 3 of her skills are based on Lin Dayu's skills, while leaving some room for them to be stronger. But then we get to stuff like the clash power, which is a little bit trickier. Sure, I could copy and paste the values from base Dayu for this. But if we look at another NPC that got an ID, Ji-chun, there's a difference between her and her Ishmael ID. While some skills on Gmail have a weaker value than NPC Ji-chun, her skill 3 has both 2 more base and coin power. So even if that is a single coin skill, I'm taking that to mean there's a range between 1 lower and 2 higher with the IDs we're comparing to. In other words, I'm just taking Lin Dayu's values, subtracting 1 from them, and then adding 2, and boom, that's our lower and higher ranges. Then once I take those and refine it to match common Season 6 Clash values, we've got these as the possible base and coin power ranges. And finally, there's the total power up top, just to make sure we're not saying that the skill 1 is gonna have 17 power. That's a bit much. Next, the poise values from the guard and skill 2 are pulled from Gmail's S2 values and how she gains poise, as are the other poise gains from skills. But when I made comparisons, Protector's Stance felt more like a variant on Serpent's Arm from the Heisho IDs, just with a lower cap. So since the cap's a bit lower, I gave them a chance to have a greater poise potency and count generation per turn. The shield is admittedly more of a guess since it's based more on Heisho Yi Song and W He, and both those ideas have some caveats to how they generate shield, whether it comes at the cost of being immobilized or needs time to generate a resource. So for this one, I decided to lean on the lower end, and I really think that it's going to be closer to 20 per turn, but left room for 40. And then the damage reduction is based on Lin Dayu's own Protector's Stance, where instead of getting 2 protection, I'm extending it up or down to 10 or 30% as a range. And then aggro, again, 5 to 8 because it's based on Lin Dayu plus more. In fact, let's just round out all the values related to Dayu, eh? Loyal Warrior's damage threshold, her limit of using her unopposed skill 3 only once or twice per encounter, the extra damage from crit, and SP heal are also based on the Dayu plus more idea. And the same goes for the number of negative effects needed to get more final power on aiding strike, as well as the final power itself, since that ultimately could add up to 1 extra power per coin at 3 to 4. And to round out the skills, the Rupture coin buffs are standard to the season's IDs like Lord Honglu or Lei Hang or so, needing 4 to 6 in order to get 1 coin power. And the defense level up on the guard is based on you Adept Heathcliff's and you Sinclair's own damage taken, plus 1 for the focus on defense. Finally, the price for the passives was some of the trickiest. Ryoshu's passive here is close to both something Kurokumo Heathcliff and Eurodivi Ryoshu have in that it involves extra attacks. The main issue here is that one of these passives is based on Sin's owned, and the other is based on Sin resonance. Wait, nope. Only her support passive's on Sin's owned. This is a lot easier to guess. And then with the support passive, both in the effect and the cost to set up, it's like a stronger Zwei Rodion support passive because, well, come on, it's basically the same thing, but again. Alright, that covers all the references. Honestly, this is just me seeing if past evidence really does make it possible to read into IDs this much, but now that we've got a ballpark range of the numbers, what do we do with this info? Well, find out what can save her, of course! With the info at hand, this Ryoshu's major weaknesses are a lack of rupture count, limited poise potency generation, and offensive output at her peak. At least, That's how it looks on the surface. Normally, rupture count being negative wouldn't be a huge issue and kind of par for the course. But since half of her poise generation relies on it, it means rupture is a greater foundation for her build and does make a difference. So, if both the skill 1 and skill 2 apply 2 or more rupture count, that will mitigate the issue in a major way. Then, moving on to the damage output, if her damage matches Lin Dayu's buffs, and her passive is at least twice per turn like her, then her skill 1 could act as a light Mercedes that's at least rupture neutral. And lastly, I don't want to ignore the fact that she's a defensive ID, but she does seem to be settled in that department pretty well to be a unit that dies much slower than many others, and allows her to proc her Loyal Warrior ability. This isn't me saying something needs to be set a certain way to save her, this is me just saying, hey, you know what? That part's kinda fine. So now, we finally have enough information to show off her vision. This ID is at its best on a field that's already filled with rupture so that she can focus on maintaining the count and building her own poise. With that in mind, this vision is at its best when she's put in the support line and summoned with Lord Honglu. Doing this gets her SP up, her protector stance on deck, and a free skill 3 so she gets a good starting amount of poise P and C. From there, she can focus on attacking any enemies that have rupture so that her skill 2 can generate more poise, and her unopposed skill 1 can maintain both rupture and poise count. Then, once you got a reliable amount of poise, you can go more on autopilot with the automatic skill 1 and skill 3, since that maintains her protective stance more. So long as there's rupture on the field, she'll be able to act well as both a protector and a crit manager. And that's it. This ID has so many failure points that it rivals Lobotomy Corp's code in chances for it to crash. But if the values here end up being on the higher end of what I believe is a reasonable range, with the rupture count, poise generation, or even just the crit damage, this old girl's got potential to fit in. Thoracologia and Blind Obsession Ryoshu can both assist in this generation to a degree, especially with Thoracologia damaging allies, but overall, I'm really curious to see how well a support ID like this is gonna turn out. At least, I can say that now. Back when the kit first dropped, I was both on negative sleep and couldn't put my head well enough together to see how far this idea could be pushed. So now that I've made the effort to show the meta players, the lore heads, and the for funs how this could work, I thought it'd be fun for y'all to get a segment about how much we broke trying to read this kit at first. Enjoy! Gain coin power for every X poison self and rupture on target, and that's basically 1. This is kind of like her Mercedes, actually. Wait. Can we take a look at Gregor Mercedes? Deal more damage for every missing HP on the enemy. Let's see. Inflict rupture count. Deal more damage on crit. Wait. I'm being dumb. If these coins are gonna surround, dealing more damage on crit, then I've got to think of the ideal state being with a shit ton of poise. And how does she get a shit ton of poise? Protector stance. Gain poison poise count. And if we look at Lin Dayu, now hold on a second. Protective stance. She doesn't gain any poise. She does, okay, 3 poise on self though. Hold on, let me just get to the vision here, because there might be an offensive vision. Get her to crit as often as possible. Apply rupture as stably as possible. And then when you get that, so she can use Hey Back Off, I would assume twice per turn based on Lin Dayu and based on Alan Gregor. And she's almost always gonna be using it, because when another ally's skill hits an enemy, she'll use it. If she uses it once, fine, whatever, believable. If she uses it several times, then that's a bit better for poise count. Only maintenance, but yes for poise count. Is this death by 1,000 cuts? Hold on. Treat it as if it has Heisho Packer Jaw family, which means activate the following instead. Heal 20 SP, command them to use their base skill 3 as an unopposed attack. Like, in my head, I'm trying to figure out if there is an offensive vision to this or if it's all defense. Which in Limbus, your best defense is a great offense, you know? I've looked at the offensive vision, let's look at the defensive vision. Like, maybe there's something here. So, protectors, stance, through defense and S3, which, you know, if you just get her in with Lord of Hongyan Honglu, I'll give you this. You're giving her protector stance. That's it. I do like this message, though. You know it's not looking bright when the ID strength depends purely on numbers we don't know. True. Yeah. Take less damage, gain shield by poise on self, gain poise and poise count. Cool. Is there any other means with which she gets better defenses, or is this it? Gain protector stance, that's fine. Use Hey Back Off. If an ally is killed by an attack, use Aiding Strike. Like, that's 4 coins? She'll get Hey Back Off, but that's just another 2 coins. I don't think there's anything else defensive on her. Like, there is the ability to heal ally for SP, but it's only one ally, so that's like kind of worse than Liu Yi-sung. What else is there? Malfaust does your job defensively better. I'll be real. Malfaust is before I became very cognizant of a lot of gameplay stuff. I'm so fucking tired, man. This is great. Gain 1 assist defense. Oh, I forgot she had this. Wait. If this unit did not equip a defense skill, is about to take an unopposed attack. Apply 1 Lord's Guard to random Hastro allies with the least assist defense stacks. Hold on. Max 2 allies. Could this be something? Could this be useful to her? No, I don't think she gets Lord's Guard. I don't think that's relevant at all. She doesn't even get that. Oh, no. Give me a second. I gotta think here. It's my job to find out how you're supposed to use these, whether it's good or not. I gotta find her greatest potential. Normally, I have to put down a how could this ID be ruined? This is a how could this ID be saved? Let's just assume that the numbers look fantastic. Like they're Malfaust, they're fucking W. Corpeth at his peak. We're talking 37. What was Lin Dayu's numbers looking like again? 25. That's not great for a skill 3. Not in this age. It's fine. If S1 has... This is our cope music, chat. This is how I'm gonna cope. Has 2 rupture count. Damage... buff from extra crit. What do you think, chat? I think this could be saved if it has like, I think like 50% extra damage. What am I doing? This isn't gonna work. If we take a look at Gregor Mercier, up to 120%. Okay, 120%. This is basically what we're comparing it to. And if we compare that to Lin Dayu, 8 and 5 is technically better. I'll leave it, you know what? No, I will be nice. I'll say 50. I think there's reason. If it's like twice per turn and you don't have to be fucking weird with your build in order to do it twice, sure. You also maintain rupture count. That's fine. Stop trying to protect her. She's a lost cause. I have to do my job. I'm like fucking Phoenix Wright. I'm pretty sure my client's in a terrible place, but I'm bringing out the parrot to try and testify that maybe we have a case here. I know I'm in kangaroo court right now, but I'm the Joey that's gonna keep hopping until I fall out of someone's abdomen. There is one more piece of evidence that's worth looking into. There's actually one more piece that is worth checking, genuinely. It's the video. No, there's still nothing here. There's still nothing here. I don't really want to have to look into MD to really justify this ID. Hi, Lei Hang. She could almost use soda. I don't think she feels anything really well either. Maybe this is why she failed to save Bounce. Okay, I'm giving up on any 4D chess play. There's no 4D chess play here. I get that much. Her best state to be in is when allies can give stable rupture count. Guys, do we have any Heisho that are great at giving stable rupture count? Oh wait, maybe Heisho Pack Ryoshu can give stable rupture count. Oh, actually on the skill 1, yeah, she can. On the skill 2? Wait, actually, yeah, she can. On the skill 3? Wait, actually, yeah, she can. Start using Mao Ryoshu instead. Oh god, I know what this is. Oh, hold on, Chad. I know what this is. Also, why the hell do they have Roja serving like that in this ID? I ain't complaining, but it's like, oh. Actually, guys, you know what? I changed my mind. You should actually pull on this banner, get all of it, get it until you get Yi-sung Ideality. It is a must get, specifically because of this one particular detail. That's because the Lei Hang announcer is in it. You must get it. All right, today's member and patron Q&A comes from Ruinari, who asks, do you think there will be playable Bloodfiend IDs outside of La Mancha Land IDs, not counting Elena as a Walpurgis option? Short answer, yeah. Project Moon's actually given us 2 little hints suggesting that they're ready for non-La Mancha Land and probably non-Elena IDs too. And both of them are from the Moebach GAC. The new Bloodfiend Merceau has a passive that affects only La Mancha Land Bloodfiend IDs, which implies that if there's a non-La Mancha Land Bloodfiend, that's not affected. I forget exactly which effect it is, but it is in there. And 2, in Murder on the Warp Express, Ryoshu mentions that there is someone who called themselves a Bloodfiend among the Fingers, which means we might even get a new Bloodfiend ID as soon as next season. Nothing's guaranteed, but I'm pretty sure Project Moon just wants to leave that open, so hey, keep watch, I guess.